This hardworking dad vanished on his way to a routine trash pickup. 6 days later, he was found in a Target parking lot with his head caved in, rotting in the back of his own dump truck. So in June 2005, a 57-year-old truck driver named Jack Reed is taking a sip of a margarita at a park in Darien, New Hampshire. Jack didn't usually drink, but today was special. It was his daughter Megan's high school graduation. Jack was the kind of guy you couldn't help but have respect for. He had a rough childhood. He grew up with literally nothing. He worked crazy hard to build his own trucking and disposal business from the ground up because he wanted his kids to have a better life than he did. He looked over at his 18-year-old daughter Megan. She was sitting with her boyfriend Walter. Now Megan and Walter had just moved in together. Jack wasn't thrilled about it. He thought she was way too young to be moving in with her boyfriend, but he didn't want to cause drama on her big day. So instead of being weird about it, Jack walked over, gave Walter a big hug, and kept the peace. Jack lived pretty simply. He rented a trailer behind a warehouse on the edge of town so he had room to park his massive red and black dump truck. He lived super frugally because he had a dream. In a couple of years, he wanted to leave New Hampshire behind and move to Las Vegas. He got this idea a few years prior after doing a moving job for a self-made millionaire who relocated to Vegas. Jack looked up to this guy. He thought, if I just work hard enough, maybe I can be successful like he is. But Jack's quiet life had a dark shadow hanging over it. That night after the party, Jack went home. He was just taking his shoes off when he heard a noise outside. He immediately peeked through the curtains into the woods behind his lot. Nothing. But his heart was pounding. See, almost 2 years ago, Jack caught a man creeping around his property in the middle of the night. The guy stared right at Jack and literally called out his name. Jack was so freaked out, he fired his gun at the guy, who ran off into the woods. Jack never found out who it was, and it kept him completely on edge. He brushed it off tonight, assuming it was just an animal. He scratched off a lottery ticket, lost, and went to bed. He had no idea his luck was about to run out completely. A couple weeks later, Jack is driving his dump truck. His cell phone rings. It's a guy named Charlie. Charlie says he has a new barn in Deerfield that needs to be cleaned out and wants to know if Jack can haul the trash away. Jack writes down the address, 145 North Road, and says he'll be there that afternoon. Around 3 p.m., Jack drives down a super secluded 2-lane road. It's sweltering hot. He pulls his massive dump truck onto the gravel driveway right in front of a white 2-story house with a big barn out back. He walks up to the front door and rings the doorbell. And that's the last time anyone ever saw Jack Reed alive. 2 days go by. Jack's daughter Megan and her boyfriend Walter show up at Jack's trailer. Jack's dump truck isn't there. His ex-wife Virginia had called Megan saying Jack was ignoring his phone and missed work, which is super out of character for him. They wait all afternoon. Nothing. Finally, around 6:30 p.m., they call the police. 6 days later, the investigation is going nowhere. Derry Police Detective Mike is in charge of the case. Jack's family has no idea who would want to hurt him. The police assume he just needed a break and drove off. But then a tip comes in, and that changes everything. Someone called Megan and said that they saw Jack's red and black dump truck parked in the back of a Target parking lot in Massachusetts. Detective Mike drives down to Massachusetts and slowly rolls through the rows of cars, and sure enough, parked in the very back corner is Jack's dump truck. Mike walks up to the driver's window. Nobody is inside, but he immediately notices flies swarming the open bed of the dump truck, and then the smell hits him. It's the undeniable rotting stench of a dead body baking in the summer heat. So Mike climbs up the side of the truck. The bed is covered by a tarp. He pulls the tarp back, but whatever is in there is heavily wrapped in thick layers of plastic. He pulls out a pocket knife and starts slicing through it. There, wrapped in plastic, was Jack Reed. Jack had essentially been brutally assaulted. He was severely beaten. He had shattered ribs, multiple skull fractures. With the most graphic detail, there was a literal softball-sized hole smashed into the side of his head. His face was so mangled and destroyed from the blunt force trauma that they had to pull his dental records just to confirm it was actually him. Detective Mike, who was working the case, knows this level of violence means it was personal. When Mike checks the truck's cabin, there's zero blood, no murder weapon, just Jack's logbook tucked into the passenger door. It's scribbled in a rush, 145 North Road. Mike looks up. He notices that the Target parking lot is covered in security cameras, and one of them is pointed directly at Jack's truck. The police pull the security footage. The timestamp says June 27th at 5:30 p.m., the day Jack vanished. They watch Jack's truck park. Two unidentifiable people get out. One of them checks the tarp on the back of the truck to make sure the body is hidden, and then they both hop into a white minivan and speed off. It's completely blurry. The can't read the license plate, but the tech guys tell Detective Mike they have one more piece of footage to show him. This footage is from July 4th, just one day before the police found the body. A car pulls into the exact same Target parking lot, the passenger door opens, and a young woman gets out. Detective Mike leans into the monitor. He recognizes her instantly. It's Megan, Jack's 18-year-old daughter. But why is the grieving daughter at the exact same random Massachusetts Target where her dead dad is rotting in the back of a truck? Mike brings Megan into the interrogation room. He acts super friendly. He doesn't tell her about the camera, but almost immediately Megan brings it up herself. She says, "I can't believe my dad was found there. Walter and I were literally just at the Target a day ago to buy contact lens cases." She claims they were visiting Walter's sister nearby to get their minds off the disappearance. Mike asks to confirm the last time she saw her dad. She says without hesitation, the night of June 27th. But Mike knows that's impossible because the security footage proves Jack was already dead and dumped in that parking lot by 5:30 p.m. on the 27th. Mike pulls her boyfriend Walter into a separate room. Walter repeats the exact same story, right down to the contact lenses case and the wrong date. It is way too consistent. Mike realizes they rehearsed this. They're using each other as alibis. Was Megan, Jack's own daughter, and her boyfriend behind this atrocious crime? Mike digs into Jack's phone records. He finds a 3-hour gap on the afternoon of 27th, just before Jack went off the grid. He got 2 calls from an unknown number. Mike traces the number. It's registered to a guy named Charlie. It's a prepaid burner phone, bought in cash, activated just 8 days before the murder. Mike drives out to the address in Jack's logbook, 145 North Road. It's a secluded farm with a big white house and a barn. A middle-aged guy named Michael Connors answers the door. He acts totally calm until Mike flashes his badge. Then the guy starts sweating and acting super jumpy. Mike asks to look around. He walks down a muddy path out to the barn. He opens the heavy wooden doors. Sunlight floods in, and then the barn is spotless. I mean, suspiciously clean, like scrubbed with bleach clean. The farmer is standing by the house, watching Mike like a hawk. Mike asks the farmer one last question. "Do you know Megan or Walter?" The farmer says no, and his body language totally relaxes. For the first time, he's telling the truth. Megan didn't do this. Mike heads back to the station, frustrated, but then the fax machine goes off. It's the call logs from the burner phone, the killer's phone. Every single call on the phone was made to Jack's number, except for one. When Mike looks up who owns that one other phone number, the entire case is finally revealed. Based on those phone records and the confessions of the suspects, police finally put together exactly what happened in that barn on June 27th, and it's incredibly dark. That afternoon, 2 hitmen are sitting inside the white farmhouse waiting for Jack. One is nervously tapping his foot. The doorbell rings and it's Jack. The calmer hitman answers the door, acts super friendly, and leads Jack down the dirt path to the barn. The nervous hitman trails behind them. Jack walks into the barn. 2 more men are waiting inside the shadows. It's 4 against 1. Before Jack can even react, the nervous hitman tackles into the dirt floor. A second later, there's a sickening crunch. The hitman looks up. One of the accomplices is standing over them, holding a heavy construction hammer, dripping with blood. Jack is on the ground, and a literal softball-sized chunk of his skull is caved in. It was so intensely graphic that the hitman who tackled Jack had to run outside and vomit in the grass. When he walks back in, the other 3 guys have rolled out a massive sheet of thick plastic. They drag Jack's body onto the center of it. Blood is pouring out of his head, creating a massive puddle. One of the killers looks at the bleeding and says, "If we stop his heart, the bleeding will stop." So he raises the bloody hammer and just starts pounding on Jack's chest over and over until his heart stops. They wrap him up, toss him in his own dump truck, and drive him 40 miles away to that Target parking lot. Now the question is, who ordered these 4 men to do this to Jack and why? Well, remember the guy from the burner phone records? The only other number called, it belonged to a man named John Brooks. John Brooks was a self-made Las Vegas millionaire, the exact guy Jack really looked up to. This guy whose life Jack wanted to copy. Years ago, Jack helped Brooks move some stuff. Brooks, with zero evidence, convinced himself that Jack stole some motorcycles and jewelry during the move. It was a completely baseless accusation, but Brooks was rich and he was extremely petty. 2 years prior, he sent his own son Jesse to Jack's trailer to scare him in the middle of the night. That was the unknown man Jack shot at. When Jack fired that gun, John Brooks lost his mind. He vowed to get revenge, so he hired 4 guys, including his own son, to drive to New York, Hampshire, rent his buddy's barn, buy a burner phone, and brutally assault Jack, all over a baseless accusation about some missing motorcycles. In the end, all 5 men were caught. John Brooks, the millionaire, was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The guy who swung the hammer got life too. The other accomplices got decades behind bars. Jack Reed spent spent his whole life working tirelessly to escape poverty and to give his kids a good life, he idolized the man who turned out to be a monster. If there's anything to take away from this case, is that you truly never know who you're dealing with, and a simple accusation can turn someone into a complete psychopath.